All right, well, welcome everybody. Thanks for coming to check this video out. My name's Joey. I'm with Conscious Movements, and I'm going to share some information with you guys that was truly transformational in my life. It took me from a bad place and really gave me some tools to start to work on myself and heal some of my trauma and just feel better in my body. So quick bio about me. I was a firefighter paramedic for about 12 years. From doing that type of job and not having the tools to deal with the trauma and the stress that I was incurring, I eventually was diagnosed with PTSD. Through that process, I was kind of thrown to the medical system. I was given a bunch of pills, not really given any root cause understanding of what PTSD was and what I was dealing with. So through my own journey, my own understanding, different techniques like breath work, ice baths, plant medicines, movement, yoga, I came to understand the nervous system and how I could use movement and breath to better regulate myself. So like I said, I was diagnosed with PTSD. My understanding of that evolved over time, and what I eventually came to understand was that PTSD, like stress, depression, panic attacks, a lot of the problems our modern society is dealing with comes from a dysregulation of the autonomic nervous system. So if you haven't heard of the autonomic nervous system, all vertebrates, anybody with a spine has a nervous system. It has two different branches. We have the sympathetic, which is our stress response, your fight or flight response, and you have the parasympathetic, which is the relaxation response or your rest digest response. So in PTSD, basically, we get stuck with that fight or flight mode. The gas pedals to the floor, and you're stuck in this stressed out mode. Your body's unable to regulate itself. It's unable to come back to what's called homeostasis, which is balance between the systems. When homeostasis is arised, health is a natural byproduct. When there's dysregulation, you're going to have digestive issues, sleep issues, emotional regulation issues, all kinds of different problems. So once I started to understand this, I started to look for ways I could train my nervous system to allow it to come back to homeostasis. So from that understanding, I started to look into a lot of different breath work. And what I came up with after stealing from a couple different guys was the 3 gears of breathing. So all these images here are color coordinated. I made them what I like to call fireman proof. Real simple. So these concepts can be a little out there, but when we ground it in simple color coordinated 1, 2, 3 steps, it makes it easier to where you can actually apply it in your life. So with the 3 gears of breathing, first thing we want to understand is the inhale through your nose is like pressing the gas. That speeds up the system, that stimulates the sympathetic or the stress response, and it gets your body going. When we inhale through the mouth, that's like pressing the turbocharge. We fire the system up, the body prepares to fight, flight, it prepares to protect itself essentially. Exhale, nose or mouth is the brake. So as you extend your exhale, that's like pressing the brake. That's going to stimulate the parasympathetic or relaxation response and slow the body down. So with that basic understanding, instead of waking up and feeling tired or depressed and grabbing a Red Bull or slamming a coffee, you can use your breath to upregulate your nervous system and get you going. Same thing in the opposite direction. I can use my breath to downregulate the nervous system and calm my body. It's not uncommon for me 2.5 years into my healing journey to wake up with what I call as a stress breath. I'm breathing heavy in my mouth, into my chest. This type of breathing pattern, if left unchecked, will eventually lead me into having a panic attack. And now I'm given anti-anxiety meds to help me with that, but no one told me, hey man, if you do not fix your breathing, the body's going to do what you're asking it to do. So once I understood that, it became a practice of, can I be aware of what my body's doing? The body's always communicating to you. And once you learn how to down-regulate or toggle the nervous system, you can either go up or down. So I would be waking up, I'd be in that stress response. First thing I needed to do was become aware of my breath, switch to a nasal inhale, filling my belly, and extending my exhale. As I did that, I started to be able to regulate my breath and calm my nervous system, thus preventing me from having a panic attack. Completely free, and it empowered me to start to work with my body to better regulate myself. So all this information I'm sharing with you guys today is about empowering yourself. It's not about demonizing one side versus the other. It's about finding a balance between all the beneficial forces we can use to improve our health. So like I said, I was diagnosed with PTSD. I was sent to the medical system. I was given pills to regulate my depression, my anxiety, help with my sleep, and those things were helpful. But the problem is, what is the long-term solution? Are we just going to keep upping dosages? With those increase in dosages, side effects come, and then you kind of start chasing your tail. So the way I see medicine is as a bridge to help you balance yourself out. So if you need to take the anti-anxiety med to where you can just be well enough to then spend some time breathing, that's the goal. We want to bring the Eastern medicine and the Western medicine together to find the best solution. So when I started to understand this information, it took me from what I felt like was a victim mindset. Hey, you got PTSD, you are screwed up, man. Just take these pills. I don't know what else to tell you. And it allowed me to go, okay, I'm going to take these pills. It helps me to get to more of a baseline. But then what am I doing to become fit for service? What am I going to do to empower myself? And that's where understanding the nervous system, understanding how to breathe, learning things like hot therapy, cold therapy, movement, organic food, good sleep, getting in nature, journaling, expressing yourself to others, dancing, singing, all these type of practices allow you to connect to the intelligence inside yourself and become empowered. The more I practice these things, the more I embody it, the more I understand myself, and the more I'm able to then self-regulate. So that then gives me a path. Okay, my doctor gave me this anti-anxiety med. I'm taking this many milligrams. I'm going to add these breath practices, these more holistic approaches, use both things together with the goal that in a month from now, I'm going to drop my dose. In 2 months from now, I'm going to be off the meds. If you're not looking at it in that way, it's going to just go the opposite direction, where you continue to up dosages, you become less and less empowered, and you're just stuck with this label. I have ADHD, I have depression, I have anxiety, I have whatever. This path gives you a way to work through those things and empower yourself. All right, so next we're going to talk about the autonomic nervous system. This is the key to learning to regulate yourself, to dealing with trauma, to stress and anxiety, to depression, to digestive issues, to sleep problems, to emotional regulation problems, all kinds of things. Understanding the nervous system gives you a root cause way to address multiple health issues. So if you have a spine and a brain, you have one of these. So this applies to pretty much everyone out there. So the autonomic nervous system, it's made up of the spine, the brain, and then you have the peripheral nervous system, which goes out through your bodies, helps control all the functions in your bodies. So we have two branches. The sympathetic, which is red, that's our fight or flight, also the stress response. The green is the parasympathetic, that is our relaxation response, and it's responsible for rest and digest. All right, so like I was saying, the autonomic nervous system has two branches. I like to think about it as a teeter-totter or a resource allocation system. So your body's always either sending energy to protect itself, to that stress response to get the body going. If that's not happening, it's going into relaxation, repair, maintenance mode. So the balance of the two systems is something called homeostasis. When the body is in homeostasis, health arises. When there's any dysfunction in these systems, dis-ease arises. So understanding the autonomic nervous system and the signals it's sending to you allows you to then regulate your system. So first thing we want to start with is understanding the eyes. So in utero, the eyes are neural tissue. They grow out of the brain and extend through the eye sockets. So as you adjust your eyes, you're literally modulating your nervous system. So when you're in a fight or flight mode, you get what's called tunnel vision. Your vision narrows, it's stuck on the threat in front of it. When you're in parasympathetic mode, you kind of go into this wide view panoramic vision. So one way I can modulate my nervous system is by toggling my eyes. So if I realize I'm in that stress response, maybe I'm chest breathing, maybe my jaw's tight, my hands are clenched, maybe I'm sweating, I can modulate where I'm putting my eyes to cue the nervous system for safety. So it works. I realize I'm in a stress response. I can look out at the horizon. I can not focus on anything directly in front of me, just allow my vision to broaden, and that cues to the nervous system safety, and it allows the body to downregulate. So that's why looking at mountains and the ocean, those kind of things are calming to the body. All right, so earlier we were talking about the autonomic nervous system. I was explaining how, depending on the state you're in, your body is cueing you, telling you what state it's in. So for example, when you're in that fight or flight, your vision, your eyes dilate, you focus on an immediate threat right in front of you. The salivation in your mouth dries out, your heart increases the speed, it's pumping more blood, your lungs get going, your body dumps adrenaline, your stomach shuts off. So these are all functions that are important to understand. Another one that was very enlightening to me and helped me resolve some issues I had was understanding how the nervous system controls sexual function. I was having erectile dysfunction issues, I was having premature ejaculation, and as a 20-something-year-old guy, that's not something you want to deal with. I thought maybe I had an issue, I needed to get on testosterone, more of this mechanistic understanding, hey, this isn't working, I need something to fix it. But as I understood the nervous system, it gave me a route to better understanding that, and gave me a way to work with my body to allow the natural processes to take place. So understanding that when you're in a fight or flight system, that promotes orgasm and ejaculation, male and female. So before you ejaculate, your body is getting into that stress response. It's speeding up. Understanding that and understanding how the breath modulates the nervous system allows you to bring that down. So to be able to last during sex, you want to be in that relaxation mode. The relaxation mode stimulates sexual arousal and erection. So if you're a man who's having trouble sexually, you can't seem to get an erection, or you are prematurely ejaculating, it may be simply that your body's in the wrong state for that activity. All right, so I wanted to explain this concept of the triune brain a little bit. So this is kind of a simplified version of how the brain works, but it's very illustrative, and it just makes sense. Most people can recognize the processes happening in themselves once they understand what's going on. So we got to remember the brain is part of the nervous system. And like we know, the brain or the body can be in a stress response, it can be in a relaxation response. based on the state of your body, your brain is functioning in a different way. So when we're in that stress response, our body shunts the blood from the higher level parts of our brain to the brainstem, which is our reptilian brain. We share this with all reptiles. And this determines, to a certain extent, the behaviors we're able to show. So if I'm in a stress response, my brain is predominantly functioning from that reptilian brain. We get the term of "I was seeing red." I don't know about you, but I've said dumb things that I didn't mean to say when I was angry. Maybe you have young children. I have a 3-year-old boy. I see this play out all the time. He doesn't get something he wants. He immediately goes into that reptilian mode. You can almost even see it in his eyes. He kind of gets that like great white shark, the big pupils, and he's no longer there. And he's acting out. He's angry. He's not necessarily in control of his emotions at that point. So again, when we're in that stress response, and you can see this, there's fMRI scans that show the blood shunting from one part of the brain to the other. Wherever blood flows, that's the area of the brain that's predominantly working. So in that stress response, we are literally animals. Our ability to use higher level functions are kind of offline. So in the red there, we have the brainstem. Above that is the yellow portion of the brain. That's the limbic system. That is your emotional center of your brain. So we share the brainstem with all reptiles. We share the limbic brain with all primates. So when that limbic brain's offline, your ability to access emotions is offline. Above that, we have the neocortex. That's the most evolutionary advanced part of the brain. Humans have that uniquely. So the neocortex allows us to think long term, to create stories, to be creative, to take others' perspective, all these higher level functions that we want to use. The punchline is, based on the state of your nervous system, you may not be able to access those higher level functions. And when you're unable to access those higher level functions, you need to have skills to be able to regulate yourself. And the strongest skill that everybody has, that's free, that's with you at all times, and something that you can get better and better at, is the breath. So when I'm in that first gear, my brain is able to function optimally. When I'm in the third gear, my options are limited. All right, so we were talking earlier about the triune brain. I was explaining how, depending on the state of the nervous system, the ability of your brain to function at these higher levels kind of goes offline. So a really good example that I've seen as a newer parent, I have an almost 4-year-old boy, is I can watch my son go through the triune brain and watch his behavior. For example, if he is doing something inappropriate and I tell him not to do it, maybe as that 4-year-old boy, he wants to do it anyways. So I can see him kind of go into his reptilian mode, and he might want to start screaming, yelling. Sometimes he'll, slap at me or just act kind of like a lizard. So understanding that he's not intentionally acting out, but his physiology is triggered to a point that these are the behaviors he has access to. That gives me a little bit of room to help him to regulate. So maybe he's doing something like that, he starts to yell or get upset. I can teach him, hey son, let's take a breath. We've been practicing this since he's been an infant, and he's already learned it. He already can recognize when he's upset, and he's learned to use his exhale to calm down. But the way this will work is I'll see him go into that reptilian mode. He's acting like a little jerk. He's kind of being rude. I give him space. He maybe does his breath a little bit. Then his emotional brain comes online. He might start crying. He might tell me he's mad or he's sad. I'll help him to actively work that. I'll ask him, what emotions are you feeling? How does this make you feel? I try to cue him into his body. Is your chest tight? Are you want to cry? What's going on? Just get curious about his body. And then as he regulates, maybe 5-10 minutes later, his neocortex comes back online, and then we're able to discuss what happened. So instead of my son acting out, he hits at me, he's yelling, and immediately me yelling at him, don't do that. I've been able to give him a little container to learn the skill of regulating, and then once he's regulated, I'm able to ask him, hey, when you did that earlier, it made Daddy feel this way. Do you think there's a better way to do that? What were you feeling? Why were you upset? And we can kind of work through it to where it helps us to have a better relationship. So just out of curiosity, look at your kids and watch their behavior happen. Have you given them any skills to regulate? Can you see this pattern take place in them? It works with kids. It works with me and my spouse. It worked when I was a fireman. It works when I'm on the jiu-jitsu mat and I'm in a bad spot and I feel myself kick into that third gear and I just start trying to force somebody off of me instead of using skill. It all comes back to the same thing. My body, my nervous system is dysregulated right now. I'm in a fight or flight mode. My access to skills, to my cognitive function is declined. Let me regulate. I calm my breath down, and now instead of trying to force the guy off of me, maybe I use a little more skill. Maybe I use a technique that is effective. So just understanding that the nervous system underlines everything you do, and based on the state of the nervous system, which is mirrored by the gear of your breathing you're in, your brain is functioning at a different level.